It's a grey Wednesday morning in November. You've left the house in a hurry, forgetting your keys, and snapped at your mum on the phone on the way into work. You arrive at school later than you'd wanted to, with less time to prepare for the day ahead than you'd hoped for. In a short time, your class will be arriving. A class of young people that, if you're honest with yourself, you've not yet been able to build the relationships with that you know are so important. So how can you, with everything you're managing in your own life, create a classroom climate that builds trust and respect and that supports all pupils to thrive? Firstly, we'll think about you, what you are dealing with in your own life, and how you manage the feelings associated with the ups and downs, your self-awareness. Secondly, we will consider how feelings drive behaviours and how our ability to respond empathically to those around you will support you, as teacher, to build responsive relationships with pupils. Thirdly, we will explore how high expectations can be maintained through a finely tuned balance of empathy with clear boundaries. So let's return to that grisly Wednesday morning. It's so important to check in with your own emotional state on a regular basis. Where would you place yourself on this emotional thermometer at that point in the day? We come to our first point, that your self-awareness is key. Recognizing your own emotions, whether it's anger, excitement, frustration, or something else, and accepting that you can be both aware of the emotion whilst also being able to park it, to return to it later, is a key part of being the strong role model that young people need in their lives. As professionals, we need to find ways to be aware of, but put to one side, possibly to manage later, our own emotions, so that we can enable and support young people and build a culture of trust and respect. To do this, you can create times in the day to check in with how you're feeling. For example, whilst walking down the corridor, listening to music, or having a cup of tea with a colleague. If you can create this space, just a few moments, then you provide yourself with time to understand your own feelings and emotions. This is important because as the orchestrator of the classroom climate, in Haim Junot's words, it's your daily mood that makes the weather. This leads to our second point, that these feelings you're checking in with on a regular basis are driving behaviours, both yours and those of your pupils. Behaviour is often a way of communicating feelings. For example, a child who is shouting out may be feeling overwhelmed and therefore finding it difficult to manage his or her frustration. Or a child who shouted at another pupil during playtime may have been feeling jealous and angry because they felt left out. It's important that we recognise and accept all feelings, whilst also setting fair, clear boundaries about behaviour. Discussing your emotions and the emotions of pupils is helpful in these circumstances, as it helps to expand pupils' feelings vocabulary. Once they begin to recognise their feelings, you can support pupils to find other tools to deal with situations that they find difficult. One way we can encourage pupils to respect and support one another is with a class or group agreement that you can then return to on a regular basis. Including young people early on in identifying how they want to feel in class and in relation to others around them helps them think about how they best learn. They may come up with words such as safe, happy, energised, listened to, and valued. Then think about the behaviours that are and aren't helpful for the class to feel these ways. This conversation encourages ownership and a sense of agency for all young people. It means they're invested in the classroom being a place they want to be and to learn. It also gives the important and ongoing message that you as teacher are listening to them, that it matters how they are feeling and what they need. This is important because building effective relationships is easier when pupils are aware that their feelings are considered and understood. You can return to this agreement on a daily basis, both as a proactive way to encourage the behaviour you want to see and also as a reminder to young people when they aren't displaying the behaviour that is helpful to them or others. Remind them gently. Do you remember we said we all wanted to feel safe? I wonder if this is helping others feel safe or listened to. What do we need to do to help everyone feel this way? This will support their own ability to recognise what they need in order to learn, through an understanding of their own feelings and drivers of their behaviour, and will therefore support them to self-regulate their emotions in the long term. The final way to create a culture of respect and mutual trust is to maintain high expectations of pupils through a finely tuned balance of empathy with fair, clear boundaries. Empathy, unlike sympathy, is the ability to think about how another person might be feeling and to see a situation from their point of view. So we can tentatively suggest what might be going on for a child when they're throwing or pushing or shouting, or of course the less disruptive behaviours, such as being withdrawn. It is important you maintain your expectations about appropriate behaviours, but attempt to discover the drive for these behaviours in a respectful way, such as, "I'm wondering if you're feeling," or "you seem." Our instinct sometimes is to try and solve things for the young people we work with, rather than help them to deal with the potentially complicated feelings. It's important to understand that the way we hold high expectations of behaviour is not through methods that might shame or humiliate the children in our classes, but in how we help pupils to change their behaviour. So, how do you create a culture of mutual trust and respect that supports all pupils to thrive? First, make sure you're thinking about your self-awareness as the role model. The young people in your class are learning about relationships in their every interaction with you and with the interactions they see you having with others. Second, remember that behaviour can be driven by feelings. Support young people to recognise and name these feelings, as well as find appropriate ways to manage them. Third, it is absolutely possible to have high expectations of yourself and young people, setting clear boundaries whilst also responding with empathy and understanding. Finally, and most important, an empathy-based classroom pivots on you, the teacher, being able to be a responsive adult for young people. And in order to be that person, it's crucial that you look after yourself.